A rabbi in central Israel fought off a terrorist when he tried to attack him. Tensions are rising with Lebanon as Hezbollah threatens Israel. A member of Knesset visited a terrorist who is on a hunger strike right now in the hospital. Another member of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps was killed, and Amnesty International is hosting a huge anti-Semitic conference in France. I'm Justin, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, make sure to like and share the video and subscribe, and also hit the little notification bell so that you never miss an episode of the Israel Guys. We're going to jump into the news in just a second, but first, let me tell you about the Heartland Experience trip that we have in December. It's a little different than our usual volunteering opportunities that we have where we work in the agriculture. You'll still get to volunteer a little bit, but this 2-week Israel trip, it combines both touring and volunteering, as I said, into an amazing time that will connect you to the land of Israel in a whole new way, and a way that most tour groups do not do. This is completely different. But on the Heartland Experience, you'll get to travel throughout central Israel, visiting key sites in Judea, Samaria, and Jerusalem. Guys, instead of just jumping on and off the bus like most tours, you'll be able to make an actual difference in each place through volunteer projects, like I said, like planting trees, helping on farms, and maybe occasionally participating in archaeological digs, which is really cool. Also, you'll get to meet some of Israel's most incredible pioneers and hear from tons of dynamic speakers. Guys, you do not want to miss this incredible trip, so make sure you go to serveisrael.com to sign up for the Heartland Experience. All right, for our Israel news, a rabbi was actually stabbed in Ra'anana, or he was attempted to be stabbed, but thank God he was able to fight off his attacker. Rabbi Shneur Yitzchakov, he was a Chabad emissary in Ra'anana. He was doing some counseling there, and he was on the way back, and he was at a crosswalk, standing at a crosswalk, and he noticed that an Arab was standing next to him and staring at him with hatred. He then noticed that the guy had a knife in his hand, and he was able to tackle him, and they got into this whole fight. But what's really weird is that even though the stabber, he called out Allahu Akbar, which means God is great, Allah is great. The police are claiming that this is a criminal act, not a terrorist act for some reason. The Arab was a 17-year-old who actually lives in Ra'anana. But after the rabbi attacked him, or the rabbi tackled him when he saw the knife, they had a whole fight. Yitzchakov afterwards did a radio interview. He said, quote, "All this happened at the crosswalk. There was no one there. We were fighting hard and I overpowered him. He kept trying to stab my upper body and I didn't let him. I kicked and punched him and finally I sat on him. The man I just counseled heard the screams and came out. He kicked the adolescent Arab assailant in the back of the head. As soon as I sat on him, the knife fell out of his hand. I let go for a second to pick up the knife, and at that moment, he broke away from me and started running. I took the knife and started chasing him. I'm not sure if the police have caught the attacker yet, but thank God that this man was quick thinking and that he was able to stop this terrorist attack. It could have been bad. The man could have killed him if the rabbi hadn't noticed the knife in the guy's hand. He then finished the interview. He said, "The Arab had managed to cause me a few stab wounds in the legs, so my legs are bandaged, but I am standing on my feet. Thank God, blessed be he." Thankfully, the man was spared a terrorist attack, and that the rabbi was able to stop this in time. Guys, there could be a war with Lebanon soon. There's tensions rising as Hassan Nasrallah, he's the leader of Hezbollah in Lebanon. And Hezbollah, the political faction of Hezbollah, is actually in the Lebanese parliament right now, and he has threatened Israel with war about the boundaries between the two countries over the water, and about the location of a new gas rig that Israel is planning on drilling soon, called the Karish gas rig. But according to Arutz Sheva, Israel and Lebanon are right now entering one of the most strained periods they have experienced since the Second Lebanon War, which was back in 2006. So in early September, Ernangian which is the company managing the drilling, they're slated to begin operation of the Karish rig. But Hassan Nasrallah, he is threatening to damage the rig if pumping begins without an agreement between Israel and Lebanon on the boundaries of the territorial waters of the two countries. So it's a dispute about the boundaries. The only official statement that Israel has released yet claims that the Karish is not in disputed waters and is actually based on historic maps provided by Lebanon themselves. And only after the location was chosen back in the day did Beirut expand the area of water that now it's claiming belongs to them. Israel is still hoping that the American mediator, Amos Hochstein, will be able to find a compromise that will prevent conflict. But throughout all these talks, instead of being willing to compromise, Lebanon has been demanding increasingly rigid conditions. We'll see what happens, but there's dispute right now, and it seems that tensions are rising between the two countries, but we have yet to see what will come out of all this. Guys, the Supreme Court rejected an appeal to release Islamic Jihad member Khalil Awouda, who is currently hospitalized after doing a hunger strike for actually a long time now. He was a leader of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and he's been on a hunger strike to protest his detention. Awouda's name made headlines before when the Islamic Jihad demanded his release as part of the conditions for the ceasefire that ended the operations in Gaza, Operation Breaking Dawn, when the Islamic Jihad shot 1,100 rockets into Israel. While the Islamic Jihad claimed that Israel agreed to release both Awouda and Bassam al-Saadi, who is the group's leader in Judea and Samaria, who was arrested before the start of the operation, Israeli leaders have denied these claims, of course. Overall, this guy, Awouda, he has spent 15 years in Israeli prisons, but he was just detained again a few months ago. He's been in the hospital. Israel transferred him to the hospital since August 11th when his condition became pretty serious from this hunger strike, and now he's in very critical condition. The doctors are saying he could die at any second. But the crazy part about all this is a member of Knesset he went to visit this guy. The member of Knesset, Ofer Kasef, who is the only Jewish man in the Arab Joint List party, he just visited this terrorist in the hospital. When he went and visited him, he said, quote, "I'm here with Khalil Awouda, who has been on a hunger strike for a very long time in a just protest of his kidnapping. There's no such thing as administrative detention." Yes, there is. It's a washed-up phrase for kidnapping when you take a person without guilt, without a case against him, without prosecution, and essentially bury him, heaven forbid, in a prison without a trial, without anything. But right now, the doctors are saying that he's in very critical condition and that he could die at any moment. But as I said, it's very ridiculous that a Jewish member of Knesset is visiting this guy in the hospital and treating him like some kind of hero. But moving along, Iranian media outlets they reported that a senior member of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps was killed in Syria. The Mer news agency reported that Ali Jani, who operated in the Aleppo area, he died during a consulting mission in Syria. But there weren't any details provided on the circumstances that led to his death. We can all speculate who did it, if Israel took out this guy or not, but we won't know unless Israel actually releases a statement saying that the Mossad took him out or something, which is very likely if you ask me. Con 11 News reported that Iranian authorities said in a statement that Ali Jani had a senior rank within the IRGC. It was also reported that the senior official will be laid to rest in Iran in the coming days. So Iranian leaders have denied that the Islamic Republic even has a military presence in Syria. But as you know, Iran is a key supporter of the Assad regime in Syria, and they provided them with both financial aid and military advisors since the start of the Syrian civil war in 2011. And obviously, they have a presence there. One of their officers was killed in Syria, so obviously, he was there and probably taken out by Israel. But we won't know unless Israel actually releases a statement or something. But moving along, Amnesty International Don't you just love them? We know they are very anti-Semitic, but they're taking this to another level. They're partnering with the French BDS movement, and they're holding a conference in partnership with a huge music festival in France that happens every year. But this conference now is called How to End the Israeli Apartheid System. It's being advertised as like a meeting/debate and scheduled for September 10th at the BDS campaign stand at the World Village at the Festival of Humanity, which is the huge music festival that has actually attracted like hundreds of thousands of people before. Thankfully, several people are calling out Amnesty International and the BDS movement for this as well. They should. The general manager of AJC Europe, which is American Jewish Committee, she called out the organizations hosting the event. She said, by partnering with the anti-Semitic BDS movement, they are demonstrating once again that they are no longer for the defense of human rights, but more dubious ideological undertakings. She is 100% correct in this. The CEO of B'nai B'rith International said, quote, Amnesty has engaged consistently in a perverse campaign against Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East and a guardian of human rights. The BDS movement in France and elsewhere is nothing more than a denier of Israel's right to exist. Also, the co-founder and CEO of Stand With Us, a very pro-Israel, great organization, they said, quote, this is further evidence that Amnesty shares the same destructive goal as anti-Israel extremists worldwide. That is, eliminating Israel and stripping away the basic rights of Jews to self-determination in their ancestral home. This is not human rights activism, but rather hate that harms Israelis and Palestinians alike. The organization should look itself in the mirror and stop betraying its stated mission. That's absolutely right. He nailed it here. But at press time, this is kind of funny. Even though the music festival attracts hundreds of thousands of people, the event about ending the Israeli apartheid system, at the time that the article I was reading was released, the event only had 10 people that said they were going to attend, and 12 said that marked as interested. So people obviously are not interested in hearing about Israel's apartheid. Hopefully people know better than this. Guys, there's good news on the Temple Mount. On Monday morning, the number of people who visited the Temple Mount crossed the threshold of 44,000 in a single year, which is actually a new record. And also, which is crazy too, because the Jewish New Year is still 30 days away, and a lot of people come up in the month of Elul, which is this next month. The previous record was 29,000 and was in 2020 before the outbreak of coronavirus. Asaf Fried of the Temple Mount administration says that positive changes are taking place in the Temple Mount, along with the increasing numbers of Jews going there. Because of the place's sensitivity, we have no choice but to work discreetly to change the discriminatory rules, and the results show. Thank God more people are showing an interest in the Temple Mount, and that the rules have actually changed in the past 5 years. Past couple of years, they've become better, and Jewish people have a little bit more freedom to pray, even though they're not allowed to pray out loud, which is ridiculous. This Judaism's most holiest site, where both of the temples stood, and they're not even allowed to pray in the most holiest site in Judaism. Talk about Israeli apartheid. This is apartheid right here. Israel is not allowed to pray in their own holiest site. So this, apartheid from the Jordan here. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. We love to hear from you and to interact with you. Let us know if you have any questions or what you want us to talk about next. But make sure to tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.